Okay. Too much security in my browsers. Okay, awesome. So I think we're live, and I'm seeing a weird echo of myself on the screen here, so that's disconcerting. And anyway, so I'll hide that. So just gonna wait a couple minutes because see if any other of our performers show up. And so the way the YouTube works is when your video isn't on, no one can see you on the YouTube. So when we do have moments of discussion and stuff, please make sure to turn your video on. That's for the crowd here. And I'm monitoring the YouTube over there. So if anyone has comments or questions, and we're a little bit informal here, so I don't mind being interrupted by a question in the chat, but also keep in mind that we're on a satellite delay of sorts, or a web latency delay, or whatever you want to call it. And so I may get your question a couple minutes after you meant to ask it. Okay. So I think that killed enough time. This is everyone's here is going to be here. So so welcome to the Make Another World, or Make a Better World. Sorry, I have too many windows here. Which one is the one with my notes? Oh, I see what happened here. I moved it to another window. All right, sorry. I had this all queued up and then I got screwed up. So, so welcome to the Making a Better World performances and presentations. This is a live event, if you're not getting the feeling there of my unedited comments. So this is our online winter exhibition that includes works from graduate and undergraduate students in the digital media program in the Department of Computational Arts at York University. So before I begin, or maybe I'll get into this now. So so this year, so last year we had a curatorial theme, and you'll forgive me, I'm not going to be able to recite it exactly, but on themes around equity, diversity, and inclusion, and we're continuing that.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
We're hearing you, Michael, in case you're coming through. But so so we're continuing that tradition, and so the last year was I should be able to find it quickly, actually. It's probably worth repeating. I just get the words mixed up. So here it is: invisibility, complexity, resistance, and intentionality. And so it was kind of a bit of a call to arms to kind of like think critically about what's going on in the world. And we're kind of continuing that tradition this year with our curatorial theme, which is making a better world. And so this year's winter exhibition will focus on how making can lead to a better world. As part of this exhibition, we will be showing works that challenge the online medium as a format for presentation and encourage alternative ways of viewing, including AR, VR, interactive, or unconventional presentations of work. How do you imagine our world in a near or distant future? How could we make that world real? Topics explored by works could include, and this is not just for this exhibition, but for the year, critical AI and computational creativity, climate futures, virtual communities, speculative futures, and algorithms of hope. Okay, so before I go any further, that was a bit of an introduction. I wanted to read our land acknowledgement, and what I've been doing is there's been many approaches, but the one I've been taking is kind of thinking about, although we're distant and spread out all over the world, is trying to think about York as a center for our community. So in a way, that's a kind of spiritual home in a sense, and that's what connects us. And so this is the territory upon which I read the land acknowledgement for these kind of events. So we recognize that many indigenous nations have long-standing relationships with the territories upon which York University campuses are located that precede the establishment of York University. York University acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many indigenous nations. The area known as Tekaronto has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis. It is now home to many indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. And of course, if you like, you can post some of the territories that you're in the chat. Okay, so moving on to our program. So in our exhibit, we have online exhibit. If you don't know the exhibit, I'll post it up on the YouTube here. Let me see how oh, there we go. You would think it'd be easier to post to YouTube. Anyway, so I put the link in there, and that's a link to the program of works. And so we have three kinds of works in this exhibit: solo works, group works, and live performance works. And so that was one of the nice things about this event, is because this is where you'll get to see the live performance works first. And we're going to, of course, archive this on our YouTube channel so you can view it later. So let's start with the solo works. And first up is Volatile Bodies, and Kavi is here. And Nick, I'm going to ask you to turn your camera off for now, just for the YouTube broadcasting.
I wanted to check the sound. Can you hear me?
And I don't hear you, Kavi. Is that me or you?
Can you hear me now?
It's like a very low, quiet whisper.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's faint. That's the right word.
Sorry.
So you're coming through somewhere. This is all part of the Zoom experience.
I am not very good with sound.
Oh, I heard something go click, click. Now you're silent.
I will need to go with this setup if that's okay.
Oh, okay. It seemed to work best when you unplugged your headphones entirely. I don't know if that's helpful.
Like so?
Yeah, that's the loudest it's been.
Okay, maybe I'll keep it this way.
Okay, this is unacceptable. Okay, I'm gonna hide.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Volatile Bodies is an artwork that explores data mapping and abstracting information in alternative forms for deeper inspection and appreciation. In this piece, two separate data streams are gathered in singular three-dimensional Cartesian space, mapped into different geometric bodies. I am connecting to an online cloud service called Shifter.io that publishes data in real time. One of such instances is Poetry AI that is managed by Professor Jane Tingley and is an Internet of Things prototyping platform that populates data collected from the natural environment. And I'm going to show you here, what does it look like when you connect into Shifter? So here on the right of your screen, this is a Shifter for Poetry AI. And as you can see, the live spheres that are moving represent data that is sent from one location to this network. And then all these are kind of connecting nodes that are taking this data. And in here, you can see that there are multiple different type of data that you can connect to, such as air temperature, soil temperature, wind, light, particles, and so on. Another Shifter instance that I'm using in my work is called, it's a Shifter location that actually sends data coming from my own body. And this one represents my heart activity. And there is also various sections that you can connect to. And this instance is listening to a device called Patches 2. And Patches 2 is a hardware and software platform that gathers biodata and then sends it further either to internet or through OSC channels. So it's basically collects data and then makes it available. And this Patches 2 works together with a device that I'm currently connected to. You can see have electrodes. And it's developed by Professor Mark David Hauser and his collaborator, artist, biomedical designer, and developer Alan Macy. So I'm quite fortunate to work with this technology. Why volatile, you might ask? In creating this work, I was imagining the model of our coexistence with other species and habitats. It is not always a perfect union and equal balance, but more like complex cohabitation amongst each other. I think volatile characterizes these reactions when we come to face one another. Systems that have their own intricate inner architectures when put beside other systems, they tend to battle for their existence, resulting in some form of metamorphosis or complete extinction. I wanted to display this perfect storm of strangers finding each other in the same space, habituating and intertwining amongst each other under different circumstances. The human heart meets with wind and carbon dioxide inside a multiple coordinate system and in fluctuating space-time, locked inside generative bodies composed of points and lines that are also systems in their own domains. The structure for these bodies are expressed using L systems, a type of grammar that allows to draw and construct stringed objects. Trees would be one of such kinds, besides other forms of growth and iterations. At the end, what I was looking for was not so much the complexity of the form, rather the movement and dance that these multiple instances were exhibiting. A behavior, if you may also call it, nature, a life principle, engine, source of anima, and what enlivens particles of this whole universe. I wanted to create a living and breathing pattern that becomes an expression of other complex systems when removed from the density of physical space, a narrow and close introspection of things that we don't see nor hear with our human sensory apparatuses. The sound plays a crucial part to give data a voice by bringing wind and heartbeat into the perceptual zone for our ears to capture an elusive natures of these phenomena. And I'm going to play a little excerpt, maybe just like a minute or so, so you can actually hear the audio as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Kavi. And, so we're hoping to have a little time at the end. We're gonna have a little bit of a discussion and maybe a debate or whatever arises from there. So, so I'm going to move on to Nick Fox-Geek. And Nick.
All right. So this year did a dive into Three.js and sort of getting more familiar with using it as a delivery platform for all manner of different projects. And just, sort of generally preparing. You can see this now. I don't have my green line. Hold on. Oh, I'm going to assume we can see it, even though we don't have the green line. So this project here, which I am sharing in the chat if you want to see any of the pieces of it, was originally made with a group in Vienna called Artificial Museum, and is viewable. Pieces from it are viewable at physical locations scattered around Toronto and matching locations, corresponding locations in Vienna. This one is outside the Toronto Animated Image Society Arts Org at Dufferin and DuPont. But that's very difficult to convey in online performance. So here I'm about to take us briefly through the non-locative AR version. And you can also visit it here. So that is extracted brush strokes from 3D scans on a bike ride along the waterfront that were passed through a number of different formats that I've been working on to deliver as a web project in Three.js. This actually looks a lot better than the final AR version because it has a lot of post effects, bloom and so forth that we had to strip off of the AR version to make it work in the Artificial Museum Groups tool. Yeah, let me know if anyone actually ever does come across the real one, if you have any business with some of the artworks up at Duffer and DuPont. Yeah, hopefully this is a viable way to work now. I think a couple of changes in the 3JS format in recent years, especially the past couple of years, have really taken over that line where we can start using it to make stuff. I know a bunch of us did this past term in Graham's class, and I hope we can keep at it.
Hey, thank you, Nick. Awesome. So just imagine applause tracks after each presenter. We don't have, I should incorporate one in my system here. So anyway, we got some virtual applauses here. We're going to move on to oh yeah, I don't know if you have access to the YouTube, Nick, but I can give you, here's our stream channel. And this goes for any of you. You can post, maybe you can post your links there as you bring them up. So we're going to move on to Grace, or no, I think next is Marcus Gordon with Southern Sub. I think you're muted.
But you can see me? Oh, can you hear me?
Now you're back.
Excellent. All right. Let me share my screen here. My project's called SIGVGS, and it was a tool that I was making for live coding visuals. The tool has kind of grown outside of being something that was supposed to allow me to be more of an instrument for analysis and an instrument to play in. It has become a little bit more than that and has become a bit of a way for me to kind of explore new topics or new technologies through live coding or creative coding. This screen here, it's a little glitchy. I apologize for that. A little bit of a flash warning. This is just an example that I created a few days ago just to show kind of like where the tool is at this point. But originally this tool was not to be something to show a lot of graphics or intense graphics. It was actually designed to be originally just an oscilloscope or a fancy oscilloscope to visualize sound that I was exploring through live coding. So here's one of the instances of an older iteration of the tool. And this is a much older iteration of the tool, and this was originally the completed tool. Really, it was supposed to be just something that was supposed to act as an oscilloscope for the sounds that I would play. And the only difference is that I wanted to render it in a 3D environment. So this tool is actually based on Max and JavaScript. And what it has pretty much amounted to now instead is more than a tool for visualizing signals, but it has become a way to kind of demonstrate how live coding can be used to explore new topics and new avenues of things. But since it took the direction of being something that can incorporate visuals and sound together, I've furthered the tool to be used for audiovisual performance. But again, it's using live coding and as the premise in which you interact with the tool. So there's always an element of a text field for you to type in commands to allow it to visualize certain things or trigger certain events. This again is an older iteration of this tool again, where you can see that I have a little panel on the side that no one normally sees, but the middle screen that you see here is where the actual visual occurs. But in addition to that, you do have the ability to see the code that I type at the top. So the tool has actually been something that was live coded, and I say that because originally the tool had one direction, and now that it's kind of manifested itself as to being bigger than that, being something that has been built on top of Max and JavaScript, it actually has been a tool that allows me to use those technologies and those languages to explore other things beyond the domain itself. This is an old patch view of all the actual network routes that I've made, and I think this was an iteration of January earlier this year. So it's kind of gone way beyond that. It's about 150 routes, I would say now. And the idea behind this, if I have another minute or two here, the real idea behind this is that I'm trying to develop a way to explore modular synthesis with more physical and analog instruments. But I found that exploring that method of modularity used in the SIG-VJS tool was iconic because it allowed me to perform with a tool that was always optimized to just be what it needed to be for the performance in question. So here is a snapshot again earlier this year of kind of how the modules looked, very messy, but they all have multiple functions, and they're all triggered and activated by actual live coded commands. And this is a more recent snapshot of kind of like the amount of routing commands or codes that I have available at my disposal. But again, although it looks fairly limited, it is quite expansive in terms of how they are combined and used together. And that's pretty much it. So the performance that I have on the YouTube is another a way for me to explore electroacoustic composition. I'm very interested in working with analog synths primarily, maybe because I work with digital all the time. So one of the methods I liked about this is that SIG-V was kind of used as a tool just to help me visualize that exploration of electroacoustic improvisation. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, awesome. And so I'm getting an echo. Anyway, so next we're going to have Grace Grothaus and talking about her work Intra.
Hi, everyone. I am Grace Grothaus, and I'd like to introduce my project Intra. And this project seeks to challenge our perception of cognition, of the exterior and internal, of self and other, and to encourage new conceptions of vibrantly alive and endlessly permuting ecologies to permeate our imaginations. It seems to me that we are realizing just how permeable perceived boundaries are between ourselves and others, and this is shifting our understanding to the realization that there is no away and no other. So I'd like to play this short video for you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Wonderful. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the solo works, and now we're going to move on to the group works. And for the group works, I think we have two of the groups represented here because not all of the students could make it due to time zones and other restrictions. At any rate, so we're going to start with a group, and I don't believe anyone's here for this group, for a piece called Life in the Ocean. And this is by Xuan Han, Jia Hui Wang, and Jinwei Deng. And so I'm going to present it. I'm going to do something really meta, and I'm going to present a YouTube video on YouTube. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so yeah, sorry about that. I guess the sound was off halfway for the first half. So I'll make sure to be posting these links in the YouTube as I go, and of course everything is on the exhibition website, which is, the link is at the top of the chat. All right, sorry. So now we're going to move on to We Are Making a Better World. So I think Chubazo and Maximus, you're here. Do you want to join? Okay. Hello.
Hi,
How's it going?
my name is Chubazo. I'm one of the group members for the We Are Making a Better World project. I worked on this project with Maximus and Julia. For this project, the song was an original piece, and composing this piece, we wanted to discuss, I guess, the most obvious problems plaguing society today, which is, I guess, the equality crisis between man and woman, and then something really recent and really popular was the Black Lives Matter movement, and with the flaring interest regarding George Floyd and everything, I wanted to write a song that, I guess, discussed this and discussed how, although history has been repeating itself, our goal in society is to strive to be better and strive to stop the cycles of history that have happened. The visuals, it took a while to put together these visuals that we thought represented the theme of our song. The theme of our song representing dark to lights, representing the world a hopeful transition to a better world, a more peaceful world. So yeah, I hope you enjoy our project and our song. Have a good.
Okay. Are you going to share it, or you want me to?
Could you please share it?
Okay. No
Sorry.
problem. Of course. I'm at the ready. So okay, perfect. And this time I'll share audio. So.
Man be woman and Black Lives Matter every day. Every human keeps hurting and causing the pain. All I know is that I hope that history will change. History don't stay the same. We are making a better world for today. We are making a better world for today. We are making a better world for today. A better world for today. We are making a better world. We're gonna make a better world today. We are making. We're gonna make a better world today. We are
Okay, thank you. I think that went smoother than last time. So, so many settings. So one of the things I wanted to mention is the last two pieces you saw are they're recordings, but they were actually built using a real-time interactive software called Max, and so they're not rendered. You're actually seeing software algorithms generating everything you see in real time. And they're also both projects by groups in their second year of the program. Okay, so we're going to, I should say, the digital media program. And so now we're going to move on to Holonic Chorus, which is a group work by Kwame K. Boateng, Yal Asaf, Kavi, and Grace Grothaus. And so it's someone or all of you want to join me and speak to this work?
Yeah, I guess I'll start us. Actually, no, go ahead, Grace.
I was just about to say, could you please kick us off? Sorry.
Sure. So this was something that Grace Iyakari and I worked on for Professor Graham Wakefield's course 5520. I'm forgetting the full title of the course, but it was a full-term project in which we worked with WebGL technology, mostly web technology, which included WebGL, specifically using 3JS JavaScript library. And so we decided to create as a class, we decided to create a 3D sort of world in which different experiences could be had. And so the four of us created one specific world built on top of the skeleton of the whole sort of universe. And I'm just gonna, if you want to continue, Grace, I'll just place the link in the chat.
Yeah, and if you wanted, you could even maybe, I don't know, share your screen and I can talk a little bit.
My laptop isn't great if you want to share it.
Okay, let me try. All right, let me see if I can walk you guys through the experience of logging into this WebXR world. This presents the opportunity to actually log in with a VR headset if you want, or you can experience it in the browser right here like this. We have randomly generated placement of trees that happens differently each time you enter the VR space. And you can be in there simultaneous with other users. Like if Kwame were to log in right now, you would see him as well. And so each avatar, as he was telling you, can create music when they interact with the trees here in the space. And so people together can kind of playfully create a kind of joint music work if they'd like, or just play around by themselves. Kwame or Kavi, if you're still here, do you want to add anything to that? Hey.
Yeah. So there I am in the world with Grace. So the idea spawned from, well, I guess the situation we're all sort of in right now. We wanted to create a world that allowed for like a novel kind of world that was both visually and interactively, a responsive environment that could allow users to truly interact with. And so the world is sort of supposed to allow people to, or allows users to find each other as they go into this world. So as they approach a tree, the tree changes, the foliage of the tree changes in light and a sound is created. And that's the idea, is to allow each other to find each other. And if you can't tell, there's a sort of a fog shrouding the whole world. And so as you move further out, the fog gets denser. And so, yeah, it's using the digital world and the digital bodies to bring users together despite a physical separation.
Well said. I don't have anything else to add, so I think I'll stop sharing unless there's any final thoughts. No? Okay. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Okay, and so now we have one last group work, and this is called Meta Access, and this is by Erica Wellman, Caitlin Ulandu, Ashley Tong, and Ju Park. Okay, thank you so much, and always nice to hear some Debussy. And now we're going to now move on to the live performance works, and we have two live performance works that'll be around between 10 and 15 minutes each, and the first one is called Rhythm Analysis in the Tub by Kavi and Marcus Gordon. Okay, thank you so much. So now we're gonna move on to our last work by this Patcher, aka Michael Palumbo.
Thanks, Mark David. I really enjoyed that last piece, Marcus and Kavi, and I wasn't planning on doing this, but I enjoyed it so much that I actually built a patch alongside what you were doing. So this isn't in any way a continuation of what you were doing, but maybe like an exquisite corpse kind of thing. But anyway, I hope you enjoy. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. So I was alerted to the fact that actually during the rhythm analysis and tongue twister in the tub, I was that Kavi's sound was not working, and so they asked if they could have another go, and I had suggested, and this is a surprise and an invitation, but I suggested maybe Michael, you might want to try and join them. Okay, cool. So we're gonna, but Michael, I wanted to warn you, I think your sound is a little bit quieter than Marcus's was. So if you can check the.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
how's
we're
my
gonna
voice?
get weird echoes,
Yeah.
right?
Besides the echo, how's my voice right now in terms of levels?
Better, I think.
Yeah.
I actually do have a perfect reason why the sound didn't work. So I wanted to do a tribute for John Cage and place the flowers in a bathtub. And I think his spirit came and demanded his silence. So that's why I didn't have my sound on. But I'm gonna test.
This is like a water walk. I didn't notice that till you said that. Okay, perfect.
But I'm gonna do a quick sound check. I just want to make sure that it comes through. Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you hear anything in one moment? Thanks.
Sweet.
Awesome. Thanks.
I'm gonna patch on the fly. So if you don't hear anything from me for a little while, it's because there's nothing. Hope that's okay.
That's no problem. I'll kick us off with some subtle things now.
Should we do like 15? 10 minutes?
Yeah, 10 to 15 is good.
Cool.
Awesome. Good. There's an echo. So, well, I can't handle it. Okay. So the plan now is to have a conversation.
Cool.
So I invited those on YouTube to ask questions, and this is a good time to share some thoughts, and everyone can turn their video on if they're not embarrassed to, and what should we think about today? So so maybe we could start with the theme, which seems like an obvious starting point. Making a better world. And I'm sorry, I'm just hesitating because of all the windows and stuff I'm dealing with. Well, why don't I provoke, can art make a better world?
Maybe not make better world, but make people see world better. It's like a viewing angle of the world.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I kind of want to expand on that a little. I think culture shapes the decisions we make, and art is culture. So when we create and contribute to the cultural landscape, we can maybe influence society a little bit.
Yeah, and I think I'm hearing myself, but oh well. I can speak maybe just to the last 2 years. In isolation, that brings out a lot of things that make for a pretty awful existence, or can anyway. And I can speak for myself. Playing online, playing music makes my world better, and I think being able to connect with other musicians or performers, whether it's online or not, is an important thing. And I think for the audience that I can speak for, having gone to a concert last night, it really makes the world better. So yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I think your sound's broken, Marcus.
Yeah, I think you can hear me now, right? I want to add to what Michael said. I would probably say that since last year, I guess live coding music and collaborating with other people kind of made my world better too, I would say. But just to answer the question more directly, I would say a more general point that I would make is that people make the world better. So art can make the world better if people are focused on that, I would say. So I think it can. And I think it can be a powerful agitator, changer. And I almost think it's probably necessary that art is involved in change. Change can't really happen unless there's a little bit of that part of that journey towards that change.
Did you have any thoughts, Kwame, Nick, or Maximus?
Just in, in very much agreement with the others.
Yeah, I guess the idea there is that art is about seeing, right? And it's about experiencing. But one of the things, you know, that's it's been different, I guess, about the kind of art we do is that we're working with technology, and with that kind of work, we can actually speculate. And so that gives us an opportunity to actually imagine a possible future that doesn't exist. And that can be done in probably any medium, but we can make it happen in a way that's much more immersive and 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 how would you say? Yeah, I guess it immerses you within the concept. So kind of rather than relying on rhetoric to explain ideas, you rely on the full spectrum of your sensorium.
I agree, and I think also uh, the focus ability, I guess, like when you're working on an art piece, like you have a particular objective or a method to put in place, and you have this luxury of not worrying about other things. And I think that's kind of, you know, part of the difficulty in making things better. Sometimes you're often too aware of all the different pieces and elements of the mechanism to make that change, and it becomes daunting sometimes. But I think when I'm live coding, I'm just more focused on that and what I went into to make. And I know there are other things that are alongside it that I can fix as well, but I'm just kind of more focused, and I think that's kind of a big factor.
Well, to add to that, art to me is something that brings us all together, and it doesn't require knowledge of certain language or sort of professional scientific expertise. I feel like everyone can relate, interpret, enjoy, be part of that kind of appreciation, which is kind of the beautiful thing that connects us all on a more kind of humane and emotional level. And maybe that's gonna save the world, because we need our hearts, our emotions and feelings, not only hard science and technology to do the living for us. So perhaps the art helps to cultivate that emotional space where we can all exchange and be together.
So what do you think we can foresee? Well, almost nothing right now because the world's so unstable, but how do you think art will change post-pandemic, and how do you think it'll change? Let's put it that way.
This is it. This is one of those changes. But I think it's changing now. And will it be also different a little later? Possibly. I think that's almost a guarantee that we can all count on.
The cool thing about pandemic, in terms of the communication and sort of like communicating with the world, doing work, performing, was that we became buddies with technologies and apps and stuff. And even though sometimes it's still frustrating and things don't normally work, but I think like it kind of maybe forced us to kind of learn and expand our knowledge, that now we have a choice. How much do we want to keep? How much do we want to try something different? And I think like usually like in situations where you don't choose and you are kind of in the midst of it to deal with that, I feel like we are also developing another kind of qualities that is not driven just by our interest or curiosity. It's some sort of like a necessity, and I think it also sort of put on kind of the sort of like a table, what do these technologies actually mean to us? And I think they have played a very crucial role. They became part of us, they became our messengers, they became our way to communicate to the world. So I feel like it was just imbued with that message that, you know, like technology can also serve a greater purpose. And I don't know how it's going to change. I feel like we are still in the transition stage, or maybe even we haven't gone out of it. So I feel that we're probably going to know it a little bit later. Maybe it's really early to say how it's going to change. Because I think we are still grappling with it at this very moment.
Yeah, I was reflecting on when, again, like I think coming back to this, I'll start by maybe how it has changed during the pandemic, and maybe I don't know what it will be like post-pandemic. But I think prior to the pandemic, I was very specific, very specific ideals of what art I wanted to consume or where I wanted to consume it. And I think I'll sort of draw on my experience I had last night, where I was I was at a concert that was a covers night. And there was singing Beyonce songs and, you know, Adele songs and stuff, right? But it was like a live band, and they were a killer band, and it really felt urgent. You know, I mean, besides the fact that they were really good musicians, to be in a space hearing musicians play live, which I haven't had much of lately, it felt great, you know? And I think about the few times in the pandemic where I would hear a neighbor practicing their saxophone, and I would turn everything down, I would listen, you know? Or you hear a busker, and I would actually stop more often than not. So I think I certainly can speak for myself that my experience of encountering art during the pandemic, it has made me sort of rethink, sort of like not have as narrow a net for what it is that I want to seek out, and more so just experience art with others, because that's what I am not able to do really as much as I would like. So, yeah, maybe there's like I have a greater sense of gratitude for the experience when I'm experiencing it. So less so directed at what is being presented, and more so at the fact that it's being presented, you know, and that people are wanting to share that. So
I think one interesting thing to look out for is what sort of art comes out of the next few years, just from what everybody in the world, including artists, have gone through. Like, will our art be for us, for ourselves, for a social cause? Because there can be fatigue in trying to like save the world or change the world through your art. And so will some artists be coming out of this thinking, you know what, I just want to make art that I like, or art that soothes my soul or other people's souls, as opposed to trying to save the world. I'm sure there will be those who are trying to save the world, of course, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what paths artists take.
Kwame, I was hoping you're gonna save the world. I was counting on you.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm equipped for that.
I'd like to add one thing about thinking about world and like what world means. for me, my experience with the pandemic was one of both hyper locality as well as the hyper object of the entire planet. So, as borders were shutting down and travel was extremely restricted, your hyper local, perhaps just your living room, became extremely important. At least it was for me. But at the same time, thanks to Zoom and what we used to call telematics, and now we just call non-local performance over the internet, or internodal being, or virtual reality. There's so many words for it. We're able to transcend boundaries, and suddenly I could attend art performances that were taking place on every far-flung part of the planet. And that was tremendously exciting for me. So I think when we're in the moment of transition, it's impossible to know where we're going to head, but it does seem like the capacities that only digital technology brings might be a really big part of that in the future.
Yeah, I guess I have two comments. So one is a provocation is that I think we decide. We're the ones who are going to decide what happens. So it's really a choice. I mean, you could choose. I remember when I was in university, there was went to school as an undergrad in this place called College of Creative Studies, and then went back to the same university for my PhD, and I ended up working there as well. And the dean of that college, that was at UC Santa Barbara, Bruce Tiffany, he would say, knowledge is like an eagle. And he was, you should know that Bruce Tiffany was also a biologist, like a field biologist. So this is why he used these kind of analogies. But he would say, knowledge is like an eagle, and so you have a choice. You can be like the baby eagle, and wait with your mouth open, and wait for the, mama eagle to come and drop, the food in your mouth and feed you. Or you could be like the mother eagle and go out and hunt your knowledge and track it down and kill it and devour it, and then bring it back to your young, And so it was a provocation to seek out, that which you desire, and not wait for it to happen. And in this particular college, a kind of ethos for their kind of thinking. And so, so my hope in the world that I would want to hope to make is one where we can find ways to connect better with each other. And so I agree with the sentiment that, I don't know, usually I find it's not one or the other, it's kind of both and neither. But the new normal is not entirely us living on a computer and working telecommuting, and although it will be that, but I also expect a kind of reaction to that, where we're actually engaging the world and seeking experiences beyond the box, as I would put it, and getting out of the box. And in this time, and I don't know, maybe in some ways, I wonder if the pandemic couldn't happen at a worse time, in the sense that what's been going on in the world is more and more fracturing of our culture, and division, and people drawing hard lines in their conversations with each other, and less compromise and less empathy. And in some ways, I think the pandemic's kind of paused that, but I think also in some ways it might have entrenched it even more. And we just live in these virtual bubbles, and I think it's time to pop them.
Yeah, I guess getting our parents off Facebook would be a good way to do that. At least to start. You know.
Well, I'm old, so I'm also on the Facebook, I guess.
There's the whole theory that the damage is already done. The folks with fascist inclinations have been introduced to one another. So even if we cut it all off now, it's like those friendships. If we think of the friendships of everyone you've ever met online, like those don't go away just as the platform goes away.
I don't know. Like, I haven't heard from a university person I talked to today in probably a good 15 years. And we didn't stay in touch. Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard the counter argument.
That sounded like part of conversation.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know if that's going somewhere in the bush, but I kind of felt today we had a couple of hiccups with technologies and stuff, and I'm not the only person. But I feel like what is kind of also nice that we kind of preserve our humanity and error, and I feel like that's kind of doesn't go hand in hand with like applications or stuff that has to work. It has to work, but there's something really human about error and how do you respond to that. And I feel that in those moments when technology fails, you kind of feel more human. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, and I think maybe that's something that contributes to a better world is empathy for yourself and for others. If you're watching somebody perform and they make a mistake, to sort of be curious about what they do with it rather than to think, oh, they made this mistake or whatever. But I as a performer, it's really hard. It's hard to have compassion for myself when I'm playing, I find. But I think that can be a really good place to start in terms of improving conditions for other people, is to try to practice compassion for yourself.
Actually, interesting that you said that, because that's one thing I've been really trying to do for myself, not to stop with the what's the word? It starts with a D, with self-deprecation. Because because and it's funny because I'll be compassionate to others, but honestly, like most people, be hardest on myself.
Yeah. Who is self-deprecation for anyway?
Yeah.
I would say that's probably the reason why I probably got connected to live coding even more, because of this premise of it being of the revealing of what you're doing, the revealing of what you're seeing, what you're thinking. And that's what I meant about like people change make the world better, right? It's not, it's how I guess that's how I reacted to it is what changed me. And also the very fact that, we're all, every performer, I think, in a lot of artists, they're perfectionists, or they always want to do something in a perfect way. And being a designer in the past, that was law. It had to be perfect before those who can't understand were able to see it. They have to be able to interpret it perfectly, or it's going to be chaos. And I think that now I feel a lot less connected to that. More I don't know. I think to connect to people, I feel like exposing the way I think is more important than just the packaged deal of expression that I try to give to them. I think that's probably for me one of the biggest things that has made my world better, or the world around me. I feel it's because I'm less concerned with that. And stress is, I think, is a huge factor for many people. It's like one of those silent killers that people could experience stress and not know that they're going through it. And I think art relieves that. It kind of pokes you, say it's okay. You know what Kavi's mentioning earlier. I was kind of doing that earlier. She was experiencing problems. I was too. But at some point, I just wanted her to say, forget it. Let's just go and play. I think people will enjoy seeing us actually go through the error and see what we do to fix it, kind of thing. And I think about art in the past, and it's like, that's a big no-no. You just never do that. It has to be perfect before it gets onto the stage. And I think I don't know, I'm welcoming that change. For me personally, I enjoy that. I think that's part of the art, to see the human behind the work.
Yep, for sure.
Well, we're rolling up on the time here, 6 o'clock, which is when we promised to finish. And that seems like a good stopping point. And but of course, the conversation always continues. So I want to thank everyone for coming on the YouTube, and for everyone who presented. So we have Kavi, Nick Foxgeek, Marcus Gordon, Grace Grothaus, Xuan Han, Jua, tongue-tied right now, Jia Hui Wang, Jinwen Deng, Chibazor Iguilo, Julie Lee, Maximus Lam, Kwame K. Boateng, E.L. Asaf, and Erica Wellman, Caitlin Orlandu, Ashley Thong, and Ju Park, and finally, last but not least, Michael Palumbo. I think I got everyone. And anyway, thank you for this wonderful evening. It was a very nice evening, and this will be posted to YouTube, and of course our exhibit, I was going to share this really quick, is online, and you can even see the link up there in case YouTube's been blocking you the whole time. dmgallery.apps01.yorku.ca, and that'll take you to the gallery, and then the link is called Making a Better World with dashes. Okay, thank you and good night.
Thanks, Mark David.